Shortly after sunrise, one morning in January of 2019, police responded to an apartment near Radford University in Virginia, where they were met by a female student covered in blood, later identified as 21-year-old Louisa Inez Tudela Harris Cuttin. She admitted to killing her best friend and told law enforcement to arrest her. Inside the apartment, the responding officers found 20-year-old Alexa Cannon lying dead on the floor with a butcher knife sticking out of her mouth. She had been stabbed 30 to 40 times. Cuttin failed to provide a clear reason for why she killed Cannon and couldn't remember all the details of the stabbing or the events leading up to it. And while she showed some remorse for her actions, she seemed out of touch with reality and admitted to using a combination of alcohol, cocaine, and mushrooms in the hours prior to the murder. In addition to saying that she did cocaine with the devil, Cuttin prayed, mentioned the apocalypse, and repeatedly recited Hail Mary in Spanish in the interrogation room. Prosecutor Chris Rehack would later reveal that the accused killer experienced a psychotic break while in custody and spent a week in a mental facility 8 months after the killing. Cuttin pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 40 years in prison after serving 20 years. The remaining half of her sentence could be suspended with 10 years of probation. During her sentencing hearing, Cuttin apologized for her actions and said she took full responsibility for her crime. The terms of the plea deal, which were arranged with input from Cannon's family, prohibit Cuttin from appealing her case, ensuring that she'll spend at least 2 decades behind bars. Number 18. Michael Roque. In April of 2018, students at the University of Binghamton in New York State awoke to news that 19-year-old freshman João Souza had been stabbed to death in his dorm room overnight. Known for both his kindness and ambition, the popular engineering student had immigrated to the US from Brazil with his family 6 years earlier and had embraced his new life in America. Souza wasn't known to have enemies, causing his many friends to wonder who would possibly want him dead. Investigators traced the crime to a 20-year-old fellow student from Long Island named Michael Roque, whose ex-girlfriend was dating Souza at the time of the murder. Roque had transferred to the university to be closer to his ex, and he became consumed with jealousy when he found out about the woman's relationship with Souza. According to prosecutors, he remained determined to win his ex back, even though she wasn't interested in rekindling the relationship, and he saw Souza as a barrier to accomplishing this goal. Evidence showed that Roque purchased the murder weapon at a local Walmart prior to the stabbing. He set up his computer in the library, hoping to establish an alibi with his digital footprint, then slipped into Souza's secure dorm building by catching the door before it shut as someone left. And while Roque attempted to skirt around security cameras, he was still caught on video as he lurked through the building with gloves on and a hoodie pulled down over his face. 7 months after the murder, Roque took a plea deal which would come with a minimum sentence of 15 years to life and a maximum term of 20 years to life for second-degree murder. He tried to retract his plea prior to his sentencing, but the judge denied the request and imposed the maximum punishment. During the hearing, Roque read a rambling 10-page statement proclaiming his innocence and accusing the system and his lawyer of failing him. He said he was being wrongfully sentenced, displaying an obvious lack of remorse for the actions that had put him behind bars. Number 17. Tanaya Lewis. On a September morning in 2018, high schooler Tanaya Lewis attacked fellow student Denina Gibson with a knife at Fitzgerald High School in Warren, Michigan. Witnesses would later describe seeing Lewis chasing Gibson around a classroom with the blade in hand and stabbing the victim repeatedly. With a smile on her face, the classroom teacher, Sarah Sonnenfeld, pushed Lewis out of the classroom and shoved her a second time as she tried to get back in, at which point Lewis said, "I hope she dies." When Sonnenfeld returned to the classroom, she saw Gibson lying face down in a pool of blood. She stayed with the injured student while awaiting an ambulance, and another staff member took Lewis to the office where she was picked up by law enforcement. Emergency responders rushed Gibson to the hospital where she died from her injuries, and authorities charged Lewis as an adult with premeditated first-degree murder. According to prosecutors, Lewis stabbed Gibson, a straight-A student, due to a perceived romantic rivalry over Lewis's ex-boyfriend. She was was upset over the victim's interactions with the male student, who had ended their relationship due to Lewis's cheating. In August of 2020, Lewis pleaded no contest to the charge. She was sentenced to 27 to 60 years in prison, with credit for the nearly 2 years she had spent in pre-trial detention. During her sentencing hearing, Lewis tearfully apologized for her actions, saying that she was so sorry and would take it back if she could. Number 16. Jae-min Shah. During what began as an ordinary night of online video gaming in September of 2022, the anguished screams of 20-year-old Purdue University student Varun Manish Chedda pierced his friend's headphones. Police were called to his dorm room in West Lafayette, Indiana, where they found the data science major dead from multiple stab wounds to the head and neck. Responding officers promptly arrested Chedda's roommate, 22-year-old Jae-min Jimmy Shah, who admitted to stabbing Chedda with a folding knife but failed to provide a clear reason for his actions. Speaking to Good Morning America in the tragedy's aftermath, Chedda's parents described him as a peacemaker and a minimalist, and as far as anyone knew, there was no history of problems between the two men. Shah reportedly claimed that he was being blackmailed by Chedda, but didn't provide specific details to back up this belief. He also claimed that he was a former CIA operative with extensive involvement in international espionage. Shah was charged with murder, but the case hit the first of several delays when he was diagnosed with schizophrenia and found incompetent to stand trial in April 2023. He was ordered to undergo mental treatment and was found fit for trial 5 months later, but the judge reversed the decision after discovering that Shah had stopped taking his antipsychotic medication. During an emergency hearing, Shah explained that he stopped taking his pills because he did not believe he was schizophrenic. He agreed to start taking his medication again, but was once again declared incompetent in December of 2023 due to his continued delusions and inability to assist in his defense. While being treated at a state psychiatric hospital, Shah was required to take his medication, but no such requirement existed following his discharge and transferred to jail. In June of 2024, Shah was declared incompetent for a third time because he remains delusional despite receiving antipsychotic injections. His case remains paused until he attains the ability to understand the proceedings. In the meantime, the court will revisit his progress every 90 days. Number 15. Charles Escalera. During the early morning hours one Saturday in February of 2024, college wrestler Josiah Kilman was found unresponsive in his dorm room at Campbellsville University in central Kentucky. The 18-year-old theology major from Columbia Falls, Montana, had been strangled to death, and the campus was put on lockdown while investigators worked to identify and locate a suspect. At the crime scene, police found a book bag containing an ID and other items belonging to 21-year-old fellow wrestler Charles Escalera, who lived in the same dorm building. Surveillance video showed Escalera entering the building shortly before 11 p.m. with the book bag and leaving nearly an hour later without it. Detectives also discovered security video from a local Walmart that showed Escalera entering the store at 3:30 a.m. when he was supposed to be abiding by the campus lockdown rules. He changed his shoes and stole a backpack, clothing, and some other items before leaving the store at around 4 in the morning. 17 hours into the investigation, police apprehended Escalera while responding to a call about a suspicious person in a barn. The pre-engineering major from Moore, Oklahoma, was arrested on suspicion of murder and second-degree burglary. After responding officers found him inside a residence he had broken into and taken food from. Escalera was still wearing the same shirt he was seen in on the surveillance video from the dorm building, and there was blood on his sleeves. He admitted to fatally strangling Kilman, but his motive remains unclear. According to law enforcement, Escalera was described by others as a loner who didn't hang out with his teammates. He was indicted on murder and burglary charges in May of 2024 and remains held at the Taylor County Detention Center with bond set at $2 million. Shortly after the tragedy, Kilman's father, Joe Kilman, spoke at the university's chapel. In a surprising act of grace, the devout Christian asked those in attendance to share their emotions, then encouraged everyone to choose forgiveness, which he considers to be a cornerstone of his faith. Number 14. Carmelo Colon. Christine Chalusin experienced a parent's worst nightmare in February of 2024 when her teenage son, Benjamin, walked through the door of their apartment in Springettsbury Township, Pennsylvania, and collapsed. He was bleeding profusely from multiple stab wounds to the neck, back, and abdomen. According to court documents, Colin stabbed Benjamin while they were smoking marijuana in the woods. Colin told investigators that he didn't leave his apartment that day, but surveillance footage proved otherwise. The judge denied bail and he was booked into jail on suspicion of attempted criminal homicide and aggravated assault. He remains behind bars amid the ongoing case. During a bail hearing in October, Christine Chalusin testified that her son had received a get-well card from Colin. She described how Benjamin had experienced crippling anxiety in the aftermath of the stabbing, causing him to lose sleep and making him scared to leave their home. Living at the apartment became so unbearable that the family moved in with Christine's sister, but they were ultimately required to return until their lease ran out. Christine said that she allowed Benjamin to burn the card because it was his way of dealing with the situation, and expressed a fear that her son's emotional recovery would backtrack if Colin were to be released. The judge ordered Colin to remain in jail pending the results of a mental evaluation, which will be discussed at the next hearing in early November. Number 13. Casey Sloan. In September of 2024, 19-year-old Arizona State University student Casey Sloan jumped out of her seat and stabbed 19-year-old Mara Daffron twice as she entered a classroom on the school's Glendale campus. Fellow student Matthew McCormick sprang into action and stopped the attack, potentially saving the victim's life. Daffron was taken to the hospital, where she underwent surgery for non-life-threatening injuries, and Sloan was arrested on suspicion of attempted first-degree murder, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and disorderly conduct. According to court documents, Sloan was deciding between two people to attack when she decided that Daffron was an easier target. While prosecutors failed to disclose a motive for the attack, Sloan reportedly admitted that she went to class intent on hurting someone that day, and that she had been planning to do so since the night before. She told investigators that she didn't know anything about Daffron beyond the young woman's first name. Sloan pleaded not guilty and was booked into jail with bail set at $250,000. Prosecutors have since dropped the attempted murder count, but the rest of the charges still stand. Number 12. Jake Washer. While reenacting a movie scene for a college assignment in March of 2019, 21-year-old Jake Washer stabbed two fellow students at an apartment on the University of Hartford campus in Connecticut. He then fled the scene on foot and was apprehended 2 hours later near a wooded area. In the meantime, the victims were taken to the hospital in critical and serious condition. 19-year-old Thomas Nee was hospitalized in the intensive care unit after undergoing emergency surgery for stab wounds to the chest and back, while 21-year-old Gasparino was treated for 3 stab wounds to the back and 1 to the chest. Washer was charged with 2 counts of first-degree assault and 2 counts of criminal attempt to commit murder. During one of his court hearings, Gasparino testified that the attack happened out of nowhere while he and Nee were setting up the cameras for their project, unable to wrap his mind around the fact that he was being stabbed in a completely unprovoked fashion. He initially thought it was a joke, but the reality of the situation quickly sank in, and the assault stopped as one of Gasparino's roommates arrived home. Both victims testified that they got along fine with Washer prior to the stabbing, but that he didn't seem like his normal self that day. They said he remained silent throughout the attack, leaving them both confused about why he was hurting them. At the time of the incident, Washer was reportedly suffering from paranoia and delusions. He thought the world was about to end and that the victims were going to hurt him, and believed he had heard a song instructing him to kill them first. Washer also claimed he could determine whether someone planned to harm him based on their food choices and the size of their pupils. During his time in pre-trial detention, Washer showed a remarkable improvement on medication, but his condition deteriorated after he missed an injection and he attacked a corrections officer. Based on his mental evaluations, the judge ultimately found him not guilty by reason of insanity and sentenced him to 20 years in a psychiatric institution with the option to extend his term if necessary. Number 11. Jalen Prince. Just days into the new school year in September of 2024, deadly gunfire broke out in a bathroom at Joppa Town High School in Joppa, Maryland. According to authorities, a student named Jalen Prince fired a single shot at Warren Curtis Grant during an altercation at around noon. Students dragged Grant out of the bathroom and school nurses rendered aid until he was airlifted to the hospital, where he succumbed to his injuries. In the meantime, Prince fled to a nearby apartment complex where he reportedly banged on people's doors in an attempt to find somewhere to hide. Police apprehended him within minutes of responding to the incident. The suspect was already known to law enforcement, although it's unclear whether he has a prior criminal record. According to Harford County Sheriff Jeff Garler, Prince was the suspect or victim in at least 10 incidents that the agency has investigated since 2022. The gun used in the shooting has not been recovered, but investigators reportedly found ammunition beneath Prince's bedroom mattress and photos of him holding a gun on his phone. Due to his age, investigators were prohibited from interviewing him about the crime. He was nevertheless charged as an adult with first and second-degree murder, assault, and use of a firearm in the commission of a felony or crime of violence. Prince remains held without bail as the investigation into the crime continues. The incident has left residents shaken in Harford County, where community members are campaigning for metal detectors and backpack searches to be implemented within the school district. Number 10. Jared Murray. Late one night in December of 2012, police in Asher, Oklahoma, received a tip that 18-year-old East Central University student Jared Murray was going to do something violent. Various law enforcement agencies launched a multi-county manhunt in an attempt to locate Murray before he acted on his suspected plans. At around 3 a.m., Pottawatomie County deputies found the murdered body of Murray's classmate, 18-year-old Gennaro Sanchez, along with his pickup truck and a .40 caliber handgun located nearby. He had been shot twice in the head. A short while later, Murray was found walking along a highway 3 miles from the crime scene. Murray and Sanchez lived in the dorms at East Central's campus in Ada. On the night of the murder, Sanchez had agreed to drive Murray to Walmart in exchange for gas money. Unaware that he was being lured to his death, during the drive, Murray forced Sanchez to drive to a rural area at gunpoint and executed him in cold blood. Sanchez's roommate, Wyatt Freeman, told local station KOCO that they had stopped hanging out with Murray about 2 months prior to the murder, when Freeman and Murray got into a physical altercation. Freeman said he was afraid of Murray and requested for him to be removed from the dorms, but that never happened. As he entered the courtroom for his arraignment, Murray told reporters that he targeted Sanchez for no reason and because he wouldn't be missed. He told police that he killed his friend just to see what it would feel like and never expressed remorse for his actions. Murray admitted that he deserved to be punished for his actions, but experts on both sides of the case concluded that he did not understand right from wrong when he killed Sanchez. Based on these findings, the judge found him not guilty by reason of insanity, and he was committed indefinitely to a state psychiatric hospital. Murray could someday be released if and when he's no longer deemed a threat to himself or others, and in 2022 he was granted permission to leave the hospital for day treatment. The decision was met with disapproval by Sanchez's family, who Murray has reportedly expressed plans to harm if he ever secures his freedom. Number 9. Jesus San Miguel. A group of teen students were eating at a restaurant across the street from their high school in San Antonio, Texas, in April of 2023 when a deadly altercation broke out between two young men. Upset by something Jesus San Miguel said to his girlfriend, 18-year-old Joshua Kinnaman challenged his classmate to a fight. He shoved San Miguel and threw the first punch, and San Miguel reportedly reacted by pulling a knife and stabbing Kinnaman. San Miguel fled the scene on foot without calling 911, and Kinnaman died from his injuries. Friends and classmates were shocked by the deadly confrontation, especially since they had always known San Miguel and Kinnaman to be friends, and neither of the two were known for being violent. Prosecutor Raul Jordan accused San Miguel of murdering his friend, saying, "You can't bring a knife to a fistfight. That is what this case is all about." The defense argued that San Miguel was trying to de-escalate the situation when Kinnaman ran into the knife. In October of 2024, a jury found the defendant guilty of the lesser charge of criminally negligent homicide, but they couldn't agree on a sentence for the crime, which could range from probation to 10 years in prison. A mistrial was declared during the sentencing phase, and jury selection for a new sentencing hearing will begin in December of 2024. Number 8. Ivory Hall. After getting involved in gangs, becoming orphaned, and dropping out of school at a young age while growing up in Chicago, Ivory Hall turned his life around. He returned to school, became a skilled boxer, and graduated as the valedictorian of his senior class in 2018. Along with these accomplishments came a scholarship for Alabama State University in Montgomery, where he planned to study business. Hall's vision for the future fell apart 2 years later when he was accused of murdering fellow student Adam Dowdell during a trip to an ATM together. Dowdell was last seen leaving his dorm with Hall in Hall's vehicle in the middle of the day in September of 2020. He never returned, and Hall fled Alabama. At the urging of his priest, Hall contacted police in Chicago 6 days later and revealed the location of Dowdell's body in an overgrown area near a roadside. That same day, police located Hall's car in a body shop where it had been towed with a smashed window. There was a large amount of blood in the vehicle, along with a suspicious amount of cleaning supplies. Hall admitted to shooting Dowdell in the back of the head, claiming that his friend tried to rob him and that he had acted in self-defense. He returned to Alabama and was detained on a murder charge, but stood by his self-defense claim. Witnesses reported seeing the accused killer being chased and shot at in downtown Montgomery before he fled to Chicago, and Hall said that he only left town at the urging of an authority figure who encouraged him to flee for his own safety. He claimed that he informed campus police of his intention to return to Chicago after initially being questioned about Dowdell's disappearance, but the university denied that this was the case. Updates on the case have not been forthcoming since several months after Hall's arrest, and he does not appear to be incarcerated at this time, leaving the outcome of the case unclear. Number 7. Kaysen Tyler Allison. During the spring of 2022, police responded to Belton High School in Texas, where responding officers found 18-year-old Jose Luis Ramirez Jr. suffering from stab and slash wounds to the chest, back, legs, and arm. Inside a bathroom, he was rushed to the hospital in critical condition and later died from his injuries. Witnesses identified the stabber as 18-year-old Kaysen Tyler Allison, who had fled the scene by the time law enforcement arrived. The incident was also captured on video, which appeared to show Allison stabbing Ramirez during a fight. Officers arrested Allison at his home, where they found a folding knife covered in blood. He reportedly admitted to stabbing Ramirez and was charged with murder. Allison remains free on bail amid the ongoing case, which is scheduled to take place in January 2025 after repeated delays surrounding the disclosure and review of evidence. Number 6. Maurice Decloux. In March of 2024, police in St. Louis, Missouri, responded to the scene of a reported fight between multiple teenage girls, where they found Kaylee Gain unresponsive and twitching on the pavement. The young woman was suffering from critical injuries, including a cracked skull and a brain bleed. Viral cell phone footage of the brawl showed a student later identified as Maurice Decloux shoving Gain to the ground, punching her and slamming her head into the concrete sidewalk. Gain was rushed to the hospital, where she spent 2 weeks in a coma in the intensive care unit, and Decloux was detained in a juvenile facility on a first-degree assault charge. 20 days after the attack, Gain's family revealed that she had started speech therapy but still couldn't communicate very well and was unable to walk on her own. She has since returned home and continues along her road to recovery. Kaylee's father, Clinton Gain, told the New York Post that the fight occurred following weeks of insults being exchanged between his daughter and Decloux. The day before the fight between Gain and Decloux, Gain had been suspended from school for fighting with Decloux's friend. Clinton denied allegations that Decloux had reached her breaking point after being bullied incessantly by Kaylee, claiming that the girls were equally cruel toward each other. 3 months after the fight, Decloux pleaded guilty to a reduced second-degree assault charge. She was released from juvenile detention and placed on probation, which the officer overseeing her supervision expected to last for 6 months to a year. Speaking with local station KSDK, the officer said it was appropriate to reduce the charge because Decloux had acted under the influence of sudden passion rather than with premeditated intent. Number 5. Abel Cedeno. In September of 2017, 18-year-old Abel Cedeno fatally stabbed fellow student Matthew McCree and seriously injured another classmate, Ariane LeBoy, during a history class at their high school in the Bronx. He was initially charged with murder, but was indicted on the lesser charges of manslaughter, assault, and criminal possession of a weapon. During a bench trial in 2019, Cedeno's attorneys claimed that he had acted in self-defense following years of homophobic bullying from his peers. Prosecutors argued that there was no evidence of either victim ever bullying Cedeno, who they accused of committing a reckless act of violence. The judge found him guilty of all charges and imposed concurrent sentences totaling 14 years, far less than the 50 years he could have faced. Cedeno expressed remorse for his actions, and McCree's mother said she was satisfied with the outcome. After the stabbing, the school's principal was removed and metal detectors were installed, but the school shuttered its doors in mid-2018 due to ongoing issues with low performance. Number 4. The murder of Sarah Rivera. A dispute between teen girls near a subway station in Queens, New York, ended in tragedy in May of 2024 when a young woman named Sarah Rivera, was fatally stabbed in the neck at around 9:30 p.m. The unnamed assailant ran into the 46th Street Bliss Street station and fled on a train while Rivera was taken to the hospital where she was pronounced dead from her injuries. Police captured the suspects at the Flushing Main Street subway station, and the murder weapon was retrieved at the crime scene along with other evidence. The accused stabber is facing charges of murder and criminal possession of a weapon, and it's unclear whether prosecutors plan to charge her as an adult. Both girls went to the same high school, but the motive for the deadly knife attack has yet to be revealed. Number 3. Sophia Rosing. In a case that was previously explored on this channel, a University of Kentucky student named Sophia Rosing was accused of launching a racist attack against a black employee at her dorm building in November of 2022. The 22-year-old was accused of stumbling into the building in an obviously intoxicated state and hurling derogatory insults at front desk worker Kyla Spring. Footage of the incident appeared to show Rosing charging at Spring with a shopping cart and throwing several punches at her. She was also combative toward the police who arrested her, who accused her of biting and kicking an officer. Rosing was charged with public intoxication, assault, disorderly conduct, and assault on an officer, and was promptly banned from the university's campus. She initially pleaded not guilty to the charges, but eventually changed her plea to guilty, and in 2024, the judge overseeing the case sentenced her to a year in jail. Due to the nature of the case, she'll serve her time in protective custody at the Fayette County Detention Center. Today's topic was requested by Punk to Pasture. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comment section below. Number 2. Tatiana Duffy. In March of 2024, a Florida mother was accused of instigating a fight between two female students at a bus stop in Haines City, Florida, and joining the brawl. The incident began when several adult bystanders saw the teenagers pushing each other around and separated them. One of the girls proceeded to pounce on a different student and began punching her repeatedly, while a woman, later identified as 28-year-old Tatiana Duffy, stood over them, recording the incident with her phone and yelling, "Beat her ass!" The other girl, who was involved in the original fight, joined back in, at which point Duffy began hitting her and yelling at her. The video abruptly ended, and Duffy was charged with battery and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Authorities also charged the juvenile suspect with battery, and the outcome of the case is unclear. We have When Going Apeshit Goes Wrong coming up right after number 1. In case you haven't seen it yet, the people in that video are no less crazy than the students were in this one. Number 1. Lunchtime fiasco in Tucson. Students at Tucson High School in Arizona were on their lunch break one afternoon in May of 2022 when complete mayhem broke out on campus. After receiving a call to pick up his sons, who had been involved in an altercation, an angry father ignored staff members' instructions to leave through a back exit. When warned about the possibility of a confrontation, he said, "If it's going down here," and proceeded out the door. Later identified as 40-year-old Willie Smith, he walked through the school's courtyard where the boys' suspected rivals were eating lunch and chased after and punched a student who he believed was after his son. In viral footage captured by onlookers, he could be seen putting the boy in a headlock, and he appeared to be holding the student down by the throat. In a Snapchat post, dozens of students joined in on the fight while security guards struggled to get the situation under control. The school district's superintendent would later tell local station KOLD-TV that Smith's actions were the catalyst and main driver of the violence, and that the disagreement between the boys resulted from a love triangle. Smith was charged with 1 felony count of disrupting an educational institution, and a student was charged with disorderly conduct. Following his arrest, he told police that he didn't think it was fair that his sons were being sent home through the back gate. He accused the boy he attacked of assaulting one of his sons and claimed he had acted in his family's defense, but also admitted that he could have handled the situation better. Following the incident, the school was placed on lockdown for several hours before resuming its activities as usual. Instagram model Morgan Osman from Miami, Florida, went viral in September of 2023 after losing it and lashing out at another female passenger on board an American Airlines plane. Her 20-second meltdown was captured on camera by another passenger on board the plane. In the video, the 35-year-old was seen shouting at the female passenger after taking her luggage from the overhead locker. She yelled out expletives claiming she did nothing wrong. Someone then told her to shut up, to which she responded, "No, you shut the up." After yelling more profanities, Osmond turned to walk down the aisle before noticing the individual filming the heated confrontation on her phone. Apparently furious, she turned to her and shouted, "Film me, I'm Instagram famous, you bum." As she walked down the aisle, she reportedly swore at other passengers, causing several people to laugh at her. Osmond later claimed she wasn't kicked off the plane but deplaned on her own accord. She told TMZ that her viral video was unfair because it didn't show she'd been provoked. According to Osmond herself, the incident began when the female passenger beside her came in so hot, accusing her of being in her seat. The woman then got on FaceTime and proceeded to make fun of Osmond. The Instagram model further claimed that if she hadn't left, she might have knocked the woman out. Number 11. Blair Featherman. 49-year-old Colorado woman Blair Featherman was dubbed Poolside Karen after a video of her having a meltdown at a pool party in Lakewood went viral on TikTok. Jada Gallardo posted a video which showed Featherman berating a group of people at the Alta Green Mountain Complex on July the 2nd of 2023. In the video, Featherman can be seen yelling, shouting that the key fob used to access the pool area only allowed for 2 people, not a f***ing Mexican party. She then allegedly called the group trash and told Gallardo she couldn't record her. Gallardo told Inside Edition that at the time she was with her boyfriend, who she said lived in the apartment complex. Gallardo also said that they showed the woman their key fob upon their arrival that day, but apparently it didn't stop her from hurling racist insults at the group. Near the end of the video, Featherman lashed out at another guy, calling him a low-class slime. In September of 2023, Featherman told Inside Edition that she wasn't a racist and that she regretted her rant. She apologized for what she'd done, calling it completely embarrassing. However, she also claimed that she only reacted in self-defense because she had been attacked by the group. The latest updates indicated that none of the people involved in the incident had chosen to pursue criminal charges and no arrests had been made. Number 10. Alan Sam de Guillem. Surveillance video captured a Canadian man becoming irate and insulting staff at a restaurant in New Westminster, British Columbia on September the 6th of 2018. The man had ordered an iced cap at the Tim Hortons on Carnarvon Street. Upon receiving his drink, he complained to staff that they had given him the wrong order. In the video, he was then seen pouring his drink on the counter before pushing it over the register. He also allegedly kicked and punched another customer who tried to intervene. Authorities released the footage to the public and the man was eventually identified as 28-year-old Alan Sam de Guillem. According to Global News, a warrant for his arrest on charges of 2 counts of assault and 1 count of mischief was issued in connection with his aggressive meltdown. On October the 15th, de Guillem was taken into custody and subsequently released on bail. 5 weeks later, he appeared in court and said he was ashamed of his behavior. He said that he wanted to go through the legal process and put the incident in the past. Number 9. Robert David Croizat. On May the 10th of 2023, an American Airlines passenger pleaded guilty to assault after attacking and berating flight attendants. 2 months earlier, the passenger, identified as Robert David Croizat, apparently became enraged halfway through a flight from Barbados to South Florida. The New York Post reported that the British man swore at a male flight attendant, calling him a shitty employee for not addressing him properly while reciting the meal choices. Croizat became more infuriated when he learned that he wasn't able to order a vegetarian meal because those were only served in first class. The commotion drew the attention of another flight attendant, to whom Croizat admitted that he'd already had a couple of drinks. According to court records, the man then became even more belligerent, demanding the cabin crew to call the captain. When a third flight attendant told him to sit down, he allegedly laid his hands on her and pushed her twice. He then turned his attention to another one of the flight attendants and pinned her against the cockpit door before another passenger intervened, lifting him up and putting him back in his seat. Consequently, the captain called air traffic control and reported the incident. When they landed in Miami, Crozat was immediately taken off the plane and arrested. His attorney, Barry Wax, told the Daily Beast that after the defendant pleaded guilty to assault, that the charge of interference with a flight crew was dropped. Wax also said that Crozat served time for a couple of days and was fined $5,000. Number 8. Tamiko Warner. A Tennessee woman's epic meltdown over a $20 baggage fee at an airport caused around $10,000 worth of property damage. Tamiko Warner went on a rampage at the Memphis International Airport shortly before her flight on December the 19th of 2018. The 45-year-old set off a fire extinguisher that filled the terminal with white clouds of carbon dioxide. According to a police report, Warner threatened airport service workers and knocked over loading poles in the gate area. A witness claimed that the woman was outraged over a baggage fee that the airline asked her to pay. The same witness caught the incident on video, in which Warner could be heard yelling, "I don't care about going to jail, whatever, this is worth it." During her purported 5-minute meltdown, Warner allegedly caused $10,000 worth of damage to computers, phones, and carpets. She was later arrested on charges of disorderly conduct and vandalism. She was arraigned 6 days later, and her bond was set at $5,000. Number 7. Lisa Michelle Macris. On the evening of July the 1st of 2022, Broward County Sheriff's deputies were called to a JetBlue terminal on a report of a woman who'd refused to pay a fee for her oversized luggage and had simply left instead, leaving her luggage behind. When deputies arrived, the woman, later identified as Lisa Michelle Macris from Boca Raton, Florida, was still nowhere to be found. Eventually, Macris returned and ordered a JetBlue employee, who was a person of color, to carry her bags for her. A deputy's body cam footage revealed that the woman yelled out the N-word as she was addressed by the employee. Hearing the racial slur, the female deputy called her out, telling her to bring her own luggage. Macris, who was seemingly intoxicated, then claimed she couldn't carry it and started yelling profanities at the deputy as well, upon which she was placed under arrest. While being put in handcuffs, she pleaded with the deputy, saying she still wanted to see her mother. The female deputy responded, "Why do you get blasted drunk to see your family?" Macris was escorted out of the terminal and placed in a patrol car. Records indicated that the 51-year-old was booked into jail on charges of disorderly intoxication and trespassing an unoccupied structure or conveyance. Ultimately, she was sentenced to probation and community service and received a lifetime ban from JetBlue Airlines. Number 6. Alan Becker. On February the 18th of 2015, a Connecticut man was facing charges after he had become enraged and allegedly threw items around a Stamford salon. That morning, Alan Becker had gone to the Loft Salon and Spa to get a haircut. Apparently, after getting the trim, he was unhappy with it. According to Stamford Police Sergeant Kelly Connolly, the man became angry when he learned the unsatisfactory haircut was going to cost him no less than $50. Connolly said Becker kicked a hole in the salon's wall, became hostile towards staff and customers, and threw over a candle display and other items before leaving. Becker returned later and allegedly demanded his hair be fixed. However, staff refused his demand and contacted law enforcement instead. The 47-year-old was later arrested at his home and charged with third-degree breach of peace and criminal mischief. Number 5. Kate Major. After causing a commotion on a flight on November the 16th of 2015, Kate Major was detained detained by authorities. The 33-year-old, who was Michael Lowen's estranged wife at the time, was on a JetBlue flight from Fort Lauderdale, Florida to Los Angeles, California, with the intent to check herself into rehab. According to the Daily Mirror, Major had been drinking in the airport lounge before boarding the flight. After takeoff, Major started arguing with another passenger about leg room. A third passenger told a flight attendant that the woman was harassing someone and was seemingly intoxicated. Major then turned her attention to the tattletale and even threatened to slit her throat. Flight attendants attempted to de-escalate the situation by moving Major to a different section of the airplane. However, she didn't calm down and instead asked for more wine. When the flight attendant refused to serve her, she took out her cell phone and started recording while demanding her drink. Apparently, when that didn't work, Major threw her phone and attempted to attack members of the cabin crew, prompting the pilot to divert the flight to New Orleans. Upon arrival, she was handed over to agents from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Major was facing a charge with the felony of interfering with a flight crew. She was released on a $25,000 bond, required to surrender her passport, and sent directly to a Southern California rehab facility, reaching her destination after all. She would later get probation in connection with the incident. Number 4. Dasha Corey. A DoorDash delivery driver was fired following an incident that unfolded on the evening of June the 30th of 2023, during which he swore at a patron who'd given him a $5 tip. The incident, which was caught on video, took place at 38-year-old Lacey Percival's home in Kempner, Texas. After receiving her $20 pizza, Percival reportedly gave the delivery man the gratuity. Footage showed the man, later identified as Corey, telling her, "I just want to say it's a nice house for a $5 tip," thus implying the tip wasn't enough, to which the woman cynically replied, "You're welcome." Corey lost his cool and cussed the woman out. The video ended up going viral on TikTok, and apparently quite a lot of people thought the tip was plenty generous. One TikTok user said they'd have told him to shove it up his, while another jokingly replied, "But just the tip." After Percival escalated the incident to DoorDash, an investigation was opened. In the end, Dasha Corey was fired. Number 3. United Airlines passenger. When a passenger on a United Airlines flight to Los Angeles, California, was asked to don a face mask, he became belligerent and later threatened to break someone's neck. Incriminating footage of the shocking incident was posted on TikTok on October the 7th of 2021 by Alexander Clark, who also was a passenger on the flight. The 1-minute clip started off with a man in a green hat removing his face mask and yelling profanities at the flight crew. Apparently, the unidentified man had become enraged because a flight attendant had repeatedly asked him to switch off his phone and keep his mask on. At the time, the Transportation Security Administration had just extended the federal mask mandates. The situation subsequently escalated as the man ran to the galley and confronted the flight attendant, upon which another passenger attempted to intervene. The enraged man responded, telling the Samaritan, "Mind your business, 'cause I'll break your neck." The man continued to shout and was consequently escorted off the plane by authorities. The footage went viral a week later, receiving more than 4 million views as of October the 12th of 2021. Number 2. Guy Raynack. After a bizarre and allegedly drug-fueled meltdown, 44-year-old Guy Raynack, who is a teacher at Shanks Middle School in Quincy, Florida, ended up behind bars. Raynack was taken to a local hospital on October the 7th of 2019 after law enforcement found him passed out in his vehicle at a Burger King. Upon conducting a search on Raynack and his vehicle, they found a sunglasses case on his person. A report from the sheriff's office indicated that the case contained 2 lighters, a rubber ring, a bag with about 25 Xanax tablets, and a small container with an orange-colored pill crushed up inside. The report further stated that while Raynack was in the emergency room that he behaved erratically and unusually, emptying his grey duffel bag and spreading its contents all over the floor. He then went to the exam room where he reportedly exposed himself to a nurse before touching himself and urinating on himself. Raynack later confided to a doctor that he had used methamphetamine and cocaine before reporting to school that day. He also claimed that he had taken Xanax during his lunch break at the fast food restaurant. He was arrested and charged with third-degree felony possession of a controlled substance without a prescription. He was taken to the Gadsden County Jail and released the following day after posting a $2,500 bond. A few days later, he was suspended from all of his duties involving contact with students. The Florida Education Commissioner said that Raynack's conduct had set a poor example as an educator and that he posed a danger to the health, safety, and welfare of any student he was in charge of supervising. Number 1. Timothy Armstrong. Timothy Armstrong reportedly scolded cabin crew, growling at them and gnawing on his face mask aboard the American Airlines flight on September the 6th of 2021. The 61-year-old was caught on cell phone video and appeared intoxicated, yelling at people on flight 1802 from Los Angeles, California to Salt Lake City, Utah. 35-year-old passenger Dennis Bush, who posted a glimpse of the confrontation to TikTok, claimed that the man had been making sexist and racist comments to other passengers even before he started recording. Bush wrote on social media that Armstrong was yelling at an Asian woman and told the cabin crew that she didn't belong there. At one point in the video, Armstrong could be seen raising his middle finger before suddenly walking up the aisle to confront a flight attendant. While being told to sit down, he continued being belligerent, berating the flight attendant while slurring his words. He eventually sat down and then gestured his middle finger again, saying, "God bless America." After growling in his seat and chewing on his face mask, he got up and confronted the flight attendant once more. Upon the flight touching down in Salt Lake City, Armstrong was removed from the flight. He was taken to a hospital to be checked out before he was cited for public intoxication and disorderly conduct. Thanks for watching. Would you rather go back to high school or go back to your ex? Let us know in the comment section below.